with plain Jenkins. So let's install Jenkins on server or on your local machine. So in this course, we're going to be either installing Jenkins on MacBook on my machine and also AWS EC2 server because there are some limitations to Jenkins version for Windows and Mac. So usually when you're running Jenkins on production, you should be running it on Linux server. So we're going to use EC2. But anyways, so here are a list of operating systems and environments, and there are different ways to install it per operating system. So I have attached links for each operating system. So for Mac, if you have a brew, then you can just use a brew install Jenkins after installing Java 8. And then after that, it is as easy as enabling the service by brew services start Jenkins LTS, and then we start listening on port 8080 by default. And then here's a Linux, much more complicated. You need to first download this jenkins.repo file and then upgrade and then install EPEL and Java 11 and then also Amazon Linux Extra if you're running it on Amazon EC2. And then finally you need to install yum install Jenkins and then use a system control to set this demo reload, start Jenkins, and then you check the status if it's running or not. And this is the Amazon Linux 2 scenario. So this is kind of similar, only difference is here. So I run these commands on an EC2 and it wasn't as easy and I needed to look up on Google about certain errors I got. There was an error about requires demonize and then there was a stack row link. I pasted it here for reference purpose. So I needed to run this as sudo Amazon Linux extras install epel-y, and after that it's pretty much the same. Install Java 1.8 or 11 and then start Jenkins. Because I've already installed Jenkins in somewhere around, yum install Jenkins and then 1.8 together. And then successful output would be like this one. And for Windows, it's here in the link and the Docker here. But we're gonna be focusing on, I guess I'm assuming using Mac, so this one, and then also the next one or EC2. All right. So we're gonna demonstrate installing on an EC2. So what I'm gonna do is jump onto AWS console. I have already stopped Jenkins EC2 because it's for testing and I don't want to be charged, but I'm gonna start from the scratch. So regardless of which region you are, I happen to be in Singapore right now. I mean region wise. But anyways, you go to EC2, launch new EC2 instance, and then you can use this Amazon Linux 2 AMI. If you change the different operating system, then you can no longer use this one. So stick with Linux 2 for now, okay? And then select, and then instance size wise the default T2 micro is enough for demo purpose. And then here you select VPC wise you can use default VPC, and then make sure this one is enabled auto assign public IP so that we can SSH into this EC2 server in public subnet. This is only for demo purpose, so in a production you should never run EC2 in a public subnet. It's dangerous, okay? But just for demo, to simplify, this is enough. Out of storage wise, you don't really need it. Tags, this is where you can add a name like name, for example Jenkins test, and then configure a security group. So you need to allow 2020, which is a SSH, but let's see if we have an existing one. Public security group. Yeah, this is enough. But anyways, if you're new, you can create a new one, and then 22 from everywhere is okay, but it's a little bit secure if you use your IP address as a source IP address. Okay, and also you need to add a TCP or HTTP of 8080 because that's Jenkins port. So you use this port from my IP for Jenkins, right? So that we can access it from browser. And then preview launch and then launch. And then here we need to make sure that we have a private key. This is a SSH key to the Jenkins. I have already created this private key and uploaded a public one as a new key pair to the EC2. I'm sure you already know about this one. SSH keygen command on Mac, and this is going to create public and a private, and once you create it you need to upload a public one as a key pair. I've already done that, so I already have one public one on AWS and private on my machine, so I'm going to use this one and then launch instances. Alright, so let's view this instance coming up, this one, and then it's going to have a public IP, so we can hit this one from my IP address. So first thing, SSH agent, right? Then after that, SSH-add-k SSH AWS demo, and then here there should be test Jenkins. Yeah, so I'm gonna add this private key to the this running SSH agent process, and then after that SSH-a EC2 user and public IP enter, and then ES now ES, and then I'm inside this EC2, and then private IPs is 23.118, so 23.118, so that's fine. So I'm inside this EC2 server, so we're gonna follow this one. So we're gonna start with update yum. It's fine, but let's move to, well, that's okay. Yeah, we don't need to switch to sudo user, and then we're gonna download this file. We download it to direction is destination is this one. So if we cat this one, we have this. So this is basically a repo definition for yum package. It says certain attributes like a name, and then base URL. We're gonna fetch it from this one, blah 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 and whatnot, and then we're gonna do rpm import of Jenkins IO key, and then this time's upgrade. So now we define the Jenkins repo and we're upgrading, we're fetching it. And then for EC2, we need to run this one most likely. So I'm copying it, execute this one. Alright, so this is successful, and then run this one. Amazon Linux Extra, install EPEL. Next one is update again before installing Jenkins. Update, and then install Jenkins and also Java 1.8. Alright, it's done. So execute install command, and after that it is the syscontrol command. So right now it's installing Java 1.8, Jenkins 2.3 or 3.3 RPM. It's going well so far. So if you go to Jenkins documentation page, which is this one, let's jump on, right? This shows you what you need to do to install the EC2. So I click on launch Amazon EC2, right? Blah, blah, blah. That's what we did on the console. And after that, you need to kind of follow this one, right? So these were the ones that I already compiled on the README, except this line. So this documentation didn't go well when I followed. So this one is working as of latest version. All right. So let's execute syscontrol demo reload, and then the rest start it, and then check the status, and then boom, it's running. So it is running at the localhost 8080. So if I do ps oaks and then grab Jenkins, you're gonna see Jenkins process running here, right, as a jar file, because Jenkins is built in Java, and then HTTP port, so it is listening at 8080 by default. All right, so success. So if you want to visit this Jenkins from a browser, what you need to do is to get this public IP, and this itself doesn't show you anything because by default this is a HTTP port, so it is a port 80 or 443. So you need to append 8080. Then it goes to the Jenkins, and it says unlock Jenkins. So this is where this part continues, right? So Jenkins now installed and running on EC2, and you need to go to this server 8080 from your browser, and you start from here, right? So instructions already here. So it says that Jenkins is security set up by administrator. Password has been written on a log, and log locations are here. So you just need to SSH into it. Cat this password. You need a sudo privilege, so sudo, and so this is the initial password. Okay, you fetch it, paste it, and you logged in first time, and then here is two options: install suggested plugins or select plugins to install manually. So before going that, let's go to section 4.1. So this happened only once, but when I did either one of them, I couldn't install this credential plugin in version 2.6. Alright, version for Jenkins right now is 2.3 or 3.3. It's updated one, so I'm sure this one is not gonna happen. Let's see, select plugins to install manually, right? And then these are already, some of them are checked off. These are recommended ones, okay? And then some of them you don't need it. So like, let's say like you don't really need to like check everything. For example, credentials, this is gonna be one of the most critical ones, so this is already enabled by default. Timestamp as well. But let's say like Ant, Gradle, we are not gonna use like Ant or Gradle because we're not using Java or anything. We don't use JUnit, but you can select this one. But also you can select it later as well. Okay, pipeline, we're gonna use it. So you can see how some of them are already enabled by default and whatnot. You don't really need to change these. Matrix, we're gonna talk about the security role-based authorization strategy. We're gonna install it later in chapter. All right, email extension, mailer. Well, we don't really need it. Anyways, we're gonna, let's say, click install. Okay, pretty much based on default. So it's gonna start installing these plugins one by one, and then it's gonna show you the status here. And then what I experienced is one time it had a problem installing Credentials plugin on version 2.6. So I needed to manually go back to previous file, version 2.5, because 2.6 was just released back then, and somehow it didn't work. So I needed to downgrade it by manually executing this jar command, right? Java jar from this terminal. You can also do it, or you can do it from more GUI. GUI is more user friendly, or you can manually also install plugins from using this Java command. Because plugin is really just a Java implementation, so it's just a plugin artifact is really .jar file, so you can install it like this one. All right, and then you copy credentials.jpi Java plugin properties extension to the default plugin location, and then you restart the Jenkins service, and that's how you install a new plugin from a command line. Alright, so let's hope everything's gonna be fine. It's gonna take a while, like a few minutes. So right now I finished time stamper. Right, you see the status, right? It's kind of like a console. And then here is where's the credentials? Credentials important. Yeah, credentials binding was successful. So it was only probably one time. But this is a helpful step by step to do it manually from a console. I just left it here for reference purpose. Alright, so installation finished. So create first admin user. So this is same on Jenkins documentation page. I'll just stick with the simplified one. So admin, 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 example. Email doesn't really matter right now. Save it and continue. Alright, and the instance configuration wise, it'll detect this public IP here and the 8080. You don't need to change it, and save it and finish. And then start using Jenkins, and it'll jump to Jenkins dashboard. Finally, yeah, so this is a dashboard, okay? So this